Permaculture and ecological design, whichever you want to call it, is really much different than what we are currently working with. The two major differences are the fact that we currently use a very linear process of thinking and problem solving in our agriculture, in our current building design, many other applications as well. And in permaculture, we use much more of a holistic or a systems-based application of observation to problem solving. To give you an example of this, specifically, if we think about a conventional garden, we have an insect that's overtaking your garden. Let's say it's an aphid. Well, we look at what are the solutions for conventional chemical garden, conventional organic garden, and permaculture. So the aphid problem that we have in a conventional chemical garden, well, we look at a pesticide. It's a neurotoxin developed in World War II that was meant to kill humans, now being applied to insects to control the population. Okay, well, are all insects the problem? Maybe not, but that aphid was the problem. And so yes, it's going to take care of the aphid, but it may have other repercussions down the line. And so that linear application of a chemical that kills insects to kill the insect that we don't want, it does have some merit because it does kill the aphid, but it has also repercussions that echo into that ecosystem. In the organic situation, we have an insect that is attacking our plants. Well, we're not going to use chemicals that were developed during World War II to put on our food. That's not what organic's about. So let's use kaolin clay, or let's use neem oil, or some other natural chemical or naturally occurring product to then control the aphid outbreak. Okay, great. So we have a problem, and then we have a solution that tackles directly that problem. Now, the questions that are not really looked at here are why do we have the insects in the first place? So organic is very much a mimicking of chemical in agriculture, except we don't use these toxic chemicals that are synthetic. So it's still using that very linear approach. If we look now at a holistic or a permaculture-based approach to that, okay, we have aphids attacking our plant. We could put kaolin clay or neem oil or diatomaceous earth or some other inhibitor or some other material that will reduce the likelihood that our aphids will spread. Yes. If the aphids get that bad, we will use this in small amounts to curb the outbreak. But the real solution is not that. It's not killing the aphids. If you're injuring yourself repeatedly, healing the injury is not the solution. It's questioning why do you keep repeatedly injuring yourself. And so why do the plants get aphids is the better question. So this is the process in permaculture that is really important, is this questioning of the origin of the problem in order to break it into functional components that we then can break down again into elements or limiting factors or missing needs or unfulfilled needs that we can then design solutions for. So why do the plants have aphids? Do plants in nature have aphids naturally? Well, go walk through the forest. You actually will see insect damage here and there, but there isn't a ubiquitous or a blanket, like a problem amount of insects in the forest. There's a balance that's been achieved. So if we look at our garden, which is these nice neat rows of tomatoes, that are, or let's say basil is better because it's one of aphid favorites. We've got nice neat rows of basil, clean bare soil, our 30-inch market garden beds, or in your balcony bin, your topsoil completely exposed, your little basil plant alone in the sun. Well, the importance of permaculture is to look at these two scenarios, the lone plant in the bare soil, compare it to the ecosystem that doesn't have these problems. So what's the difference between that plant in bare soil compared to the forest? Well, in the forest there isn't a monoculture. There's very rarely species that will completely take over a forest. It does happen, there are some plants that do this, but even in that case there is a diversity of understory species and a diversity of different organisms in the soil. So, do we have diversity in our garden? No, we only have that row of actual basil. Okay, so this could be one of the contributing factors, maybe. We don't really know yet because it's just an observed difference. We have to delve into the detail of it to learn why it may be a causal factor or not of the actual problem. So what else is different? Well, look down at the floor of the forest. It's covered in leaves, covered in leaf litter, branches, fungi. You dig into that, it is scurrying, it is alive, it's crawling with life. Okay, let's go back over to our basil plant. bare soil, hot, it's been warmed up by the sun, it's dry. Pick it up, there's not much alive in it. It's dusty, it doesn't hold moisture very well. So there's a very big difference in our soil conditions. Okay, so maybe there's something going on in the soil that is allowing for the aphids to be a problem. Now we look at some of the other factors where we have the diversity of the forest, we have this change in the actual soil. Well, the question really is, if those plants in the forest have something different, that means that they have an ability to resist the aphid, or they have some kind of another creature that is controlling the aphid. So what we're looking at now is, well, plants actually have this ability to defend against insects, and they produce all kinds of phytohormones that will actually make them non-palatable to certain insects, and they'll actually change the flavor of the tissue so that the insects no longer want to eat them. They can do this only when they're at peak health, much like you can fight off the common cold or the common flu when you've been sleeping well, when you've been exercising well, when you've been eating well, you're drinking lots of water, eating your vegetables, and so on and so forth. When we're at peak health means that we resist illness. And so the same principle is involved with plant growth. And those plants, if they are lacking in certain minerals, lacking in certain nutrients, having water stress or heat stress at any moment, all of these stress factors increase the susceptibility to insects because it decreases the energy reserves that that plant has to then fight those insects. So it does get complicated. It gets to this rabbit hole of process design, but permaculture is much more than just that linear based approach, and this is what it's about, is digging into these different layers. So all of a sudden we realize that there's something missing in that plant's growth cycle that is not providing it with the base nutrients. And we'll get into exactly what that is, whether it's the diversity of the plants or the soil health or whatnot further in this course. But that process of problem solving is what I really want to convey to you in the beginning, because this is what we are trying to hone with all of the work that we're doing in this course. And this is what we're going to make sure that you get by the end of this. So you have that process of observation and design process, those tools that are used to be able to get you through the design iterations, the observation iterations, to be able to make sure that we come up with those causal factors and those limiting factors and those elements that are missing to create then a system that provides for the ability to avoid the problem in the first place. We'll still use organic chemicals if we have to, like the kaolin clay or the whatever else it is, organic treatments, but those are only for specific moments where it's an outbreak situation and we have a lot of risk of damage.